very competitive. I always want to win. Every competitor is trying to imitate. I think they are not successful, but they try.
After watching viral Chinese suppliers profit off his brand, the Louis Vuitton CEO is done playing nice. Now, China's copycat kings will be facing the wrath of the man who always wins.
And more customers are looking at that. And they want to understand what is really behind the brand. And they like the product, but they want to see more.
The luxury industry is definitely feeling the heat from this drama. And honestly, who wouldn't? When Chinese manufacturers flooded TikTok with videos exposing what they claim is the dirty truth behind luxury brands, it revealed a massive deception that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. Imagine buying a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag only to discover it costs just $50 to make in China. That bombshell claim came from a Chinese factory manager who exposed what he says is the luxury industry's dirtiest secret, that many high-end products allegedly come from Chinese factories before being shipped to Europe for finishing touches and a "Made in France" or "Made in Italy" label. The shocking claims weren't just scattered posts, they formed a coordinated wave across social media. The hashtag #MarkChineseFactory garnered over 30,000 posts on TikTok by April 29, 2025, with viewers stunned by what appeared to be an unprecedented look behind luxury's velvet curtain. But what sparked this bombshell revelation? The timing wasn't random. President Donald Trump had just imposed massive 145% tariffs on Chinese imports, with China retaliating with 125% tariffs on US goods. Chinese manufacturers, facing potential losses from these sky-high tariffs, turned to TikTok to expose what they claimed was the luxury industry's dirtiest secret. What made these videos especially damaging was their specificity. One creator, operating under the account Azenbags2, claimed that 80% of luxury bags are produced in China. The account showed what appeared to be factory floors filled with familiar-looking bags and purses. The videos alleged that brands take almost finished bags from China factories back to their own countries and just do the repackaging and logo installing so they can legally claim they're "Made in France" or "Made in Italy." The videos didn't just speak in generalities, they named names: Louis Vuitton, Hermès, Gucci, Prada. No luxury giant was spared from the accusations. According to one viral TikTok, a Hermès Birkin bag that retails for $34,000 costs just $1,400 to produce. Other videos offered Louis Vuitton-style bags for as little as $50, claiming they came from the same production lines as the real thing. The social media response was immediate and explosive. Comments flooded in with users expressing shock and betrayal. "We've been scammed. The luxury industry is a scam. Trump bullied the wrong country." The videos struck a chord with consumers who had long suspected that luxury pricing might be more about marketing than craftsmanship, but the revelations went beyond mere accusations. Some Chinese TikTokers provided what appeared to be insider evidence showing the exact locations of alleged Louis Vuitton suppliers. These weren't just random accusations, they were specific claims that seemed designed to strip away the mystique that luxury brands had carefully cultivated for decades. One TikTok creator even claimed their friend was a manager in the factories of Louis Vuitton who confirmed that similar quality only needs $50 to produce. The timing of these exposés couldn't have been worse for the luxury sector. Major brands were already struggling with an 18–20% decline in Chinese luxury spending due to a property market slump and economic uncertainty. LVMH, Louis Vuitton's parent company, had reported a 3% sales drop in Q1 2025. The TikTok controversy threatened to accelerate this downward trend, with DHgate, a Chinese e-commerce site known for selling dupes, soaring to the number 2 spot on the US Apple App Store. Consumers were flocking to alternatives. Why pay thousands for a bag when you could get what looked like the same thing for a fraction of the price? The revelations created a perfect storm of skepticism. Louis Vuitton, which had long marketed itself as the epitome of French craftsmanship, was suddenly facing accusations that it was essentially a middleman, marking up Chinese-made goods by astronomical amounts. But there was a serious question that few were asking in the initial frenzy. Were these claims actually true? Luxury brands have complex global supply chains, often sourcing components from various countries while keeping final assembly in Europe to meet "Made in" labeling requirements. According to industry experts, a product can be labeled "Made in Italy" if it undergoes significant finishing processes there, even if components are sourced elsewhere. Conrad Quilty Harper, author of the Dark Luxury newsletter, suggested these videos were likely from counterfeit manufacturers trying to conflate the fake manufacturers in China with the real manufacturers. Legitimate suppliers would be bound by strict non-disclosure agreements and would risk valuable contracts by exposing their clients. The accusations also contradicted Louis Vuitton's official stance. According to the brand's website, Louis Vuitton leather goods are produced exclusively in France, Spain, Italy, and the United States, with no mention of China. The company emphasizes its ateliers in France, where artisans craft products to maintain the heritage and quality associated with the Made in France label. The controversy highlighted a fundamental tension in luxury marketing. Bernard Arnault, the billionaire CEO of Louis Vuitton's parent company LVMH, has openly stated that creating desire is the core of their business model. If Chinese TikTokers were correct, then that desire was built on an elaborate deception, one that allowed Louis Vuitton to charge thousands for products that cost dozens to make. But if the brands were telling the truth, then these viral videos were a sophisticated misinformation campaign designed to damage Western luxury houses during a heated trade war. As the videos continued to spread and gain millions of views, LVMH's market position weakened, ultimately losing its title as the largest luxury group by market capitalization to Hermès in April 2025. The silence from Louis Vuitton was deafening, and in that silence, speculation only grew louder. The battle lines were drawn. On one side, Chinese manufacturers claiming to pull back the curtain on luxury's biggest lie. On the other, European luxury houses fighting to protect their most valuable asset, the perception that their products were worth the extraordinary prices they commanded. And caught in the middle, consumers worldwide suddenly questioning everything they thought they knew about the bags and accessories they'd spent thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, to own. As TikTok videos claiming to expose Louis Vuitton's manufacturing secrets went viral, luxury brands found themselves in unfamiliar territory, on the defensive. For an industry built on carefully controlled narratives and aspirational marketing, this sudden transparency was more than inconvenient, it was potentially devastating. Initially, Louis Vuitton and other luxury brands employed a strategy of silence, likely adopting what crisis management experts call strategic non-engagement. This approach aligns with other luxury brands like Hermès and Chanel, which also avoided engaging with the viral claims. The calculation seemed clear, responding might legitimize the accusations, but as the controversy exploded across social media, the pressure to respond became overwhelming. Louis Vuitton told The Independent and Newsweek that it does not manufacture goods in China, reinforcing that its supply chain adheres to strict European standards. Other brands launched similar defenses. Hermès stated its Birkin and Kelly bags are primarily made in France. Lululemon clarified that only 3% of its finished goods are made in China, and Prada emphasized that 23 of its 26 factories are in Italy. Arnault, known for his hard-nosed business approach, had previously told Oxford Union attendees that in business you should always be thinking that the worst is coming. LVMH deployed its considerable legal resources to identify the TikTok creators behind the most viral claims. The company reportedly spent around 100 million euros annually on anti-counterfeiting efforts, and now those resources were directed at what they viewed as a digital misinformation campaign. The luxury conglomerate also worked with TikTok to remove videos containing what they claimed were false allegations. Several accounts, including the controversial Aerson Bags 2, were suspended, though creators often reappeared under new accounts, continuing to push similar claims. LVMH's broader corporate communications reiterated that their supply chains are tightly controlled and adhere to strict contractual obligations, making it unlikely that legitimate suppliers would publicly disclose such relationships. The company emphasized its commitment to European craftsmanship, highlighting its historic ateliers in France as the true source of Louis Vuitton products. Behind the scenes, LVMH was investigating whether the TikTok campaign was organically driven by individuals or coordinated by larger forces with geopolitical motives. Some experts, like Joshua Trauthig, suggested the videos could be part of a Chinese state-backed campaign to promote domestic manufacturing and undermine Western luxury brands during the trade war. The timing of the controversy, coinciding with heightened US-China trade tensions, certainly raised questions about potential coordination. Posts on X framed the exposés as a form of economic warfare, with comments like, "This is how you do a trade war," gaining significant traction. Industry experts pointed out that luxury brands' supply chains are complex, with components potentially sourced globally but final assembly occurring in Europe to meet made-in labeling requirements. The videos, they argued, oversimplified this nuanced reality. Louis Vuitton's response strategy also included doubling down on transparency about their actual manufacturing processes. The brand highlighted its commitment to craftsmanship through a series of savoir-faire films showcasing the meticulous techniques used by their European artisans. LVMH also emphasized that 80% of its suppliers are based in Europe, with the remaining 20% split between North America and Asia. While it's unclear if China is included in the Asian 10%, the company maintained that finished products are not manufactured in China. But LVMH faced an uphill battle. The TikTok videos had tapped into existing consumer skepticism about luxury brands, fueled by previous scandals. A Bloomberg investigation into Loro Piana and Dior's supplier issues in Italy had already raised questions about transparency in luxury supply chains. This context made consumers more receptive to claims that luxury goods are overpriced or mislabeled. Fashion experts like Jessica Wagstaff described the videos as a gotcha moment for consumers who feel duped by high retail prices. Luxury brands had always maintained an air of mystery around their production methods, a veil that was now being forcibly lifted. While luxury brands fought back against the Chinese TikTok claims, they also had to contend with a changing consumer landscape. The rise of dupe culture had already normalized the idea of seeking out lower-priced alternatives to luxury goods. The viral videos accelerated this trend, positioning direct purchases from Chinese manufacturers as not just a budget choice, but a savvy one. Bernard Arnault has always understood that luxury is about creating desire, a carefully manufactured aspiration that transcends the physical product. But now, Chinese TikTokers were creating a counter-narrative, one where luxury was portrayed not as the result of exceptional craftsmanship, but as an elaborate marketing ploy designed to charge astronomical markups for goods made in the same factories as their affordable counterparts. Arnault has emphasized that internet presence is crucial for luxury brands in the modern era. However, the same digital transparency that Arnault praised was now being weaponized against his company. Chinese TikTokers were giving consumers a glimpse behind the brand, just not the carefully curated one that LVMH wanted to share. The controversy extended beyond social media and into mainstream discourse. X-posts claimed that the TikTok exposés had destroyed the luxury market, with sales for Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Hermès, and Chanel reportedly plummeting. While these claims lacked verified data and may have reflected sensationalized sentiment, they contributed to a narrative of crisis in the luxury sector. The reality was more nuanced. While LVMH did report softer performance in China compared to markets like Japan, the brand's overall financial position remained strong. Nevertheless, the TikTok controversy represented a reputational threat that could have long-term implications for consumer trust. South African influencer Nika expressed frustration over perceived lack of transparency, arguing that a Made in France label should reflect the entire production process, especially at premium prices. Her sentiment echoed a growing demand among consumers for authentic connections with brands rather than marketing illusions. This shift in consumer attitudes was occurring against the backdrop of existing challenges in China, where Louis Vuitton was already battling perception issues. As one MBA student at Oxford pointed out, the brand was increasingly seen as tuhao, a term for those who are rich but poorly educated, reflecting diminishing desire for conspicuous luxury. As Arnault had acknowledged, Chinese consumers had become increasingly sophisticated and selective, making the market more challenging for luxury brands. The TikTok controversy threatened to accelerate this trend, potentially leading more Chinese consumers to favor local brands over Western luxury houses. The controversy also raised questions about Louis Vuitton's no-discount policy and its practice of allegedly destroying unsold merchandise to maintain exclusivity. In the context of the TikTok claims, these practices appeared particularly questionable. If products truly cost so little to make, the destruction of unsold items seemed not just wasteful, but almost obscene. As luxury brands scrambled to counter the narrative emerging from Chinese TikTok, a fundamental question hung in the air. Was the luxury business model, with its emphasis on exclusivity, heritage, and premium pricing, still sustainable in an era of radical transparency and global manufacturing? But as the controversy continued to unfold, it became clear that the genie couldn't be put back in the bottle. Consumers had glimpsed behind the curtain, and regardless of whether the Chinese TikTok claims were entirely accurate, the spell of unquestioning luxury worship had been broken for many. The battle for the future of luxury had just begun. As the dust settled on what many were calling TikTok's luxury exposé, the ripple effect spread far beyond social media. What began as viral videos videos had evolved into a full-blown crisis for Louis Vuitton and the luxury industry at large. Industry experts like Luca Solca from Bernstein argued that legitimate Chinese suppliers to luxury brands would never risk valuable contracts by publicly exposing clients. The secrecy of these relationships is critical to maintaining business ties, making it improbable that real suppliers were behind the TikTok videos. Instead, they suggested these were likely counterfeit manufacturers trying to boost sales by associating their products with authentic luxury brands. Koyana Red Star, a luxury handbag authenticator, stated that bags promoted by Chinese TikTokers are identifiable as fakes at a glance due to differences in craftsmanship, materials, and detailing. She cautioned consumers against purchasing from these sources, highlighting the risks of counterfeit goods. However, for many consumers, the technical debate over authenticity missed the larger point. If counterfeits were now so good that even experts needed to look closely to spot differences, what exactly were they paying thousands of dollars for? The controversy forced the luxury industry to confront uncomfortable questions about its value proposition. Traditional luxury marketing emphasizes heritage, craftsmanship, and exclusivity, qualities that Bernard Arnault has described as a combination of quality and creativity rather than just luxury, which he feels has connotations of being something futile or useless. But the Chinese TikTok videos suggested that the primary differentiator might simply be the logo and an inflated price tag. The damage to consumer trust extended beyond just Louis Vuitton. Posts on X claimed the entire $400 billion luxury market had been destroyed by the revelations. While such claims were likely hyperbolic, they reflected a genuine shift in consumer sentiment. The mystique surrounding luxury brands, carefully cultivated over decades, had been punctured. The trade war context gave these allegations particular potency, with Chinese manufacturers framing their videos as a response to Trump's 145% tariffs. The exposés took on an additional dimension as economic retaliation. Comments on TikTok like "Trump bullied the wrong country" and calls for a revolution against high prices highlighted how the controversy had become entangled with broader geopolitical tensions. For Louis Vuitton, which was already facing challenges in the Chinese market due to changing consumer preferences, the TikTok controversy exacerbated existing problems. Chinese luxury spending had declined by 18 to 20% in 2024, driven by a property market slump and trade war uncertainties. This had weakened demand for brands like Louis Vuitton, with LVMH reporting a 3% sales drop in Q1 2025. The impact extended to Louis Vuitton's corporate structure. LVMH lost its title as the largest luxury group by market capitalization to Hermès in April 2025, a symbolic blow to Bernard Arnault's empire. While multiple factors contributed to this shift, the timing suggested the TikTok controversy played a role in investor sentiment. Consumer behavior showed clear signs of change. Platforms like DHgate, which soared to the number 2 spot on the US Apple App Store, benefited from the controversy, with consumers flocking to buy dupes. This could erode Louis Vuitton's market share if counterfeit goods gain legitimacy or if consumers simply become more comfortable with alternatives. The viral videos also highlighted a generational divide in luxury consumption. Younger consumers, already more skeptical of traditional luxury markers and more focused on sustainability and transparency, found the TikTok claims particularly compelling. For many Gen Z shoppers, the revelations confirmed their suspicion that luxury pricing was more about marketing than inherent value. Louis Vuitton's response strategy evolved as the controversy continued. Initially adopting a stance of dignified silence, the brand gradually shifted to more proactive communication about its manufacturing practices. The company emphasized that its products are primarily made in France, with additional workshops in Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the United States. The historic Asnières-sur-Seine workshop near Paris was highlighted as a key production site for exclusive items. Beyond immediate damage control, Louis Vuitton faced difficult strategic questions. Should the brand become more transparent about its supply chain, potentially undermining the mystique that has long been part of its appeal? Or should it double down on its European craftsmanship narrative even as consumers become more skeptical? The controversy also highlighted broader issues in luxury manufacturing. While Louis Vuitton has maintained its commitment to European production, other luxury brands have faced scrutiny for unethical supply chain practices. A 2024 fine against LVMH for labor violations in Italy added credibility to consumer suspicions, though these cases involved European European operations, not Chinese manufacturing. The trade war context raised questions about the future of global luxury supply chains. If tensions between the US and China continue to escalate, luxury brands may face increasing pressure to localize production, a challenge highlighted by Louis Vuitton's troubled Texas factory, which struggled with quality and efficiency issues. For consumers, the controversy created a dilemma. The Chinese TikTok videos exposed a perceived scam, but buying directly from these manufacturers carries risks, including no warranties, potential tariffs on imports, and receiving counterfeit goods. Experts advised consumers to think critically before purchasing from TikTok sellers. The luxury sector faces a reckoning as social media exposes supply chain realities and questions markup legitimacy. Brands may need to adapt by emphasizing craftsmanship, transparency, or localized production to rebuild trust. The old model of opacity and exclusivity is increasingly difficult to maintain in an era of instant information sharing. Interestingly, Bernard Arnault has acknowledged the changing dynamics of luxury marketing in the digital age. This desire to see more is precisely what the Chinese TikTok videos claim to satisfy, though not in the carefully controlled manner that Arnault had in mind. The irony is that the very transparency he identified as important has become a double-edged sword for luxury brands. Louis Vuitton is rated "It's a start" for environmental impact by Good on You, an improvement from "Not Good Enough" due to its use of some lower impact materials and recycling of offcuts. However, the brand has not committed to eliminating hazardous chemicals in manufacturing and is not on track to meet its science-based greenhouse gas reduction targets. The Chinese TikTok expose, whether based on facts or exaggerations, has fundamentally changed the conversation around luxury goods. Consumers are asking harder questions about what justifies a four-figure price tag for a handbag. The old answers, heritage, craftsmanship, exclusivity, no longer seem sufficient when faced with claims of massive markups and hidden manufacturing realities. The very foundation of luxury value is being questioned, and LVMH is fighting fiercely to protect it. But in an era of radical transparency, where information flows freely across borders and platforms, the genie cannot be put back in the bottle. The battle for the future of luxury continues, with neither side clearly winning. Chinese manufacturers are leveraging TikTok to reach global audiences directly, while Louis Vuitton works to reaffirm its European heritage and craftsmanship narrative. Consumers are left to navigate competing claims, questioning whether the luxury they covet is authentic or illusory. One thing is certain: the relationship between luxury brands and their customers has been irrevocably changed. The mystique has been punctured, and the industry must adapt to a world where consumers demand authenticity, not just in materials, but in communication. The age of unquestioning luxury worship appears to be over. If you enjoyed this video and want more great content, don't forget to check out the recommended videos popping up on your screen.